Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. How are you? We are not live. We are not lively. Are we alert? Let's stand up a bit. I want us to do a small interactive activity session. I am alive. I am awake. I am awake. I am awake. You are not touching your head. I am awake. I am awake. I am alive. I am alive. I am alert. I am alert. I am active. I am active. Okay, let's go. I am alive. I am alive. Let's see that. What? I guess we learned something from that small exercise, right? So we need to be awake, we need to be alive, we need to be active, and then we need to be awake, we need to be alive, we need to be alert, and then we need to be active in everything that we do. So fellows, join me in welcoming Dr. Tsuma. It's called Dr. William Tsuma, but he prefers William. So I'll maintain his William. So William has over 15 years of experience in peace building, conflict prevention, and democratic governance. William is UN Zimbabwe Peace and Development Advisor. He advises UN senior management on nexus between peace and development. William also technically, or is a technical advisor to the Zimbabwean government. Sorry, I'm used to Mugabe. So he also advises religious and civil organizations, youth and women groups, and also National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. William supported the design of an integrated democratic governance program as a UNDP support to political transition in Zimbabwe. He is leading the implementation of a collaboration project on strengthening capacities for conflict prevention, healing, and reconciliation. William has a PhD in development studies, that which he earned from the prestigious Bonn University in Germany. So join me in welcoming Dr. William. Thank you so much. So, William, allow me to call you William. Our session is on how fellows can contribute to peace and inclusivity in Africa. So that is what we're going to reflect on in a few minutes that we're going to share with you and William. So it's going to be a very interactive session. It's not a presentation. It's not a lecture. So we want you to enjoy. We want you to be awake, right? Alert, alive, and active. So, William. Sorry. You know when someone has some very big names before the natural name, you tend to quote those ones before you get that one. But anyway, sorry, forgive me, I'll get used to William. So, in your experience, 15 years of experience in this sector, to you, what does peace, what is the meaning of peace, according to you?
Thanks, Boaz. And good afternoon, everyone. Quite an honor and a privilege to be here, spending time interacting this afternoon with young leaders across the continent. And yes, let's keep it William. It's easy. It just simplifies life. It's peaceful as well. Peace is it's one of those things that is invisible. It's sacred. It's personal. I think you only notice its absence, or you notice its importance when it's not there. It's one of those things you only notice how important it is when it's eluded all of us. And so without trying to answer that question, we're going to pose a challenge to all of us. So since my efforts to be a teacher failed miserably, I'm going to try today. How many of us have got internet-enabled devices? Anything that can get onto the internet, in whichever form, shape, and size. Okay? So we're going to ask you to do something. It's going to take us 1 minute. I struggled with Boas's instruction, so let's see how we can pick up on this one. Get onto mentimeter.com. Can I just put this back to us then? And thank you so much for plunging into the exercise. Thank you so much for trusting Boas and I to Paul. And the difficulty of having to describe something that is so complex, so nuanced, so sacred, yet so vital. What do we pick out of this? What stands out? Love stands out, right? How many polled love?
Simply because if I love someone, I can't hurt him. I can't hurt him. I will always find ways to protect him. And if I do hurt him, it won't be intentional, maybe by accident or whatever. But love protects. That's how I understand it.
Thank you, sir. If you love someone, you don't hurt them. If you hurt them, it's not intentional. Love. A lady, a sister somewhere. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, so I chose love because I believe love covers a multitude of sins. Yeah, so it means that if someone does something wrong to me, if I love them, I'll be able to forgive them. And even the manner in which we resolve conflict, I think we'll do it in a mature manner. Yeah.
Thank you. Love covers a multitude of sins. And the question then in that case is it a choice? What if you didn't love someone? Just as a question, and I'm putting it out there. What else comes and emerges and strikes you so strongly when you look at this word cloud?
So I chose harmony and not love because I think that, because I was about to choose love, yes, and then I decided to put harmony because I think it includes love, but there's an idea of balance, which is for me a good description of peace.
Thank you so much. So harmony is all-encompassing. It brings convergence, but at the same time brings on board love. Who else voted harmony?
Harmony, it's just pieces of being at peace with one another, having a common understanding where there is equity, fairness, and you're all on the same level. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Being at peace within yourself. And so harmony is just not an external expression, but it's also internal. And so for you, that speaks to you extensively. We have not counted, but there's quite a number of responses here. What does that tell us about the concept of peace?
Okay. I said it's a contested concept just because there's so many different perspectives on what people understand it to be. It means that people differ, and so because people differ, it's contested.
So what our sister is saying here is that when she looks at this beautiful map, she sees contestations. She sees different perspectives. So what it also shows us, and really comes very clearly to us, is that peace still remains a very personal process. It is a personal feeling. You cannot impose it on somebody. And because of that, it is extremely difficult to define what it is. But I think what we can start thinking about, and probably that will help us now when we start our reflection collectively and together as young leaders, is what peace is not. What peace isn't. And that is the discussion that I'd like us to have. Because sometimes it's easy to talk about what it is. And if you look at the symbolism of what we have around the board, and which we hope can stay on the board, is what peace isn't. And I think that's a discussion that we're going to have in a few minutes.
Thank you so much, fellows. I hope up to this point we understand the meaning of peace. And just as William is saying, the next session is as brief as the one that has just ended. We're going to define or interact with you on what peace is not. So, back to you, William.
When peace comes to your mind, and when we argue that it is, you only realize it when it's not there. So, what is it that peace is not? And it sounds like a contradiction even as I'm saying it. And I don't want to put you on the spot, my brother. But
I'd say conflict. Yeah.
Peace is not conflict. Anybody else?
Lila Zize from Liberia. Peace is not violence. Peace is not harm.
So peace is not violence. Peace is not harm. Is it possible to be at peace when you're in a conflictuous situation?
Chris Runyon from Washington, D.C. Conflict is natural. Conflict happens in every part of our life, it seems. The question is how you manage it and how you prevent it from being violent conflict. So it's managing conflict and managing emotions and managing your response that determines the peace.
So what I'm hearing you say is that peace is not necessarily the absence of, because conflict in itself is inevitable. Okay? So what we are then agreeing on is that conflict or peace is not necessarily the absence of conflict. So what else is peace not?
Emily from Uganda. Peace is not hate. When you hate, your heart is not at peace. And when you hate, you're either fighting with somebody or you're fighting with your conscience. So there is no way you can be at peace with yourself or with your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So peace is not hate. It's almost impossible, according to her, to hate and love in equal measure.
Rosemary Alice from California and Limpopo. Peace is not ignoring the vulnerable and disenfranchised. Peace is not saying no to those who come to your borders asking for asylum.
Mbuluke Mudau, South Africa. I think peace is a relative concept. I'm saying it's a relative concept because it depends on who is looking and who is defining it. All of us are from different countries within the same continent. However, based on where I grew up, my values, my principles, how I define peace, it will be based on that. And it does not mean because you're going to come with a different definition, you are wrong. You would not be wrong. You will be well right within your context of who you are, your perception, where you grew up from, the society that you grew up in. I can go on and on and on. So it is a relative concept.
Thank you so much. It's a relative concept. You can't impose it. It's context specific. It's defined by a background. It's defined by our upbringing. And it is personal. And I think that's why sustaining it is a very complex process. And we're getting there. Yes, sir, at the back.
My name is Stephen Dungo, and from Kenya. Peace is not lack of war. If there's somebody in northern part of Kenya who is hungry, then they are not at peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So again, peace is not the absence of war, neither is it the absence of conflict. We're trying to wrap up now.
I'm Duncan Onyango from Kenya. Peace is not the presence of superior weaponry. In many contexts, we tend to think that when we are, as a country, as a community, in whichever geography, when we have strong ammunition, then we have peace. That might not be the case, because even in countries where we have all that kind of ammunition, still there is conflict at one point or the other. So.
Thank you so much. There's a hand at the back.
Okay, my name is Austin Emangwa, Lagos, Nigeria. Peace is not the absence of justice. If you let me borrow the lyrics of Peter Tosh's song, everyone is crying out for peace. None is crying out for justice. Thank you.
My name is Rita Siam from Ghana. I think peace is not an option, in the sense that it is something we all must give out. So it is not something for you to choose to have or not to have, but it's mandatory. Thank you.
My name is George Awala from Kenya, and I work with VSO. I can see tranquility standing out there. I think peace and tranquility may sometimes not go together, because there could be tranquility, but it's just calm before a storm, because inside communities and people could be simmering with hatred, and sometimes you may not be sure whether that tranquility will hold on, because it may be apparent but not.
Okay, thank you. Peace is not something we create. Peace is a default setting. Whichever is anti-peace, we can create.
You know, I hope someone is, you know, that's tweetable. Yeah, you know, I can't even repeat it.
Thank you. My name is Mohamed Ekuma from Liberia. Peace is not imposing your will on other people. And peace is also not imposing democracy on everybody.
Peace is not security. We have a lot of people that have money. They've built high walls around them, but it's still not security. They live in fear.
Thank you so much. Several things have come up. Contested. It's universal good for sure, but very personal. It depends on how one was raised, where one comes from. If I'm a student, just completed school, and I don't have a job, and if a job is my sense of peace, then that's my sense of peace. If I'm a wife or a husband in a relationship that is not conducive, and I don't feel at peace, I don't feel at peace. And the peace will matter and will vary according to where we all are. I like what my brother said. It's a default setting. I like what she said. It's, how did you put it? It's a must. It's not even an option. We shouldn't even be talking whether we want peace or not. But one thing that I'm going to challenge us then to do, and we're going to do that collectively, is to reframe the question. Because I think all of us are pursuing peace. And this session is about the role of fellows in promoting peace and inclusive societies. But I'd like to flip that a little bit and ask, could we, in the effort to negotiate our lives, be contributing to conflict? Could we? With all the good intentions. I'm a boss, you're a daughter, you're a son, you're an aunt and uncle, you're a colleague at work. Probably if we flipped the question and asked, how are we contributing to conflict? Because our question locates us into that conversation. It ceases to be about those other people. And the challenge we face when we think of sustaining peace, we have tended to remove the individual into the conversation. And we have fallen into institutions. And we have used words like peacekeeping and maintaining peace. And we have set up peace commissions and peace ministries and peace programs. And all those are useful and are important. But he just said that peace is a default function. And it's a must. So it's an individual responsibility. For those who do coding or work with computers, it's a language. I mean, nobody decided how we're going to coexist in this particular space. But for some reason, it's been peaceful. We have had unbelievable amount of thinking. I was actually even about to ask, there's a country, there's a number. Nobody bothered asking what that means. There's a country, there's Omar, there's God, there's good. But guess what? That is an individual's perspective of what peace is. And that's fine. We're going to do another exercise just now. You know someone next to you, you want to tag them. So what we're trying to do now, we're trying to mob the social media streets with what peace means to us. And what we are communicating to the rest of the world is that peace is a universal language. It is a language of negotiating our lives. It is personal and it's sacred as well. And that when we walk through those doors, we are making a virtual commitment that as individuals, we're going to be custodians of that which peace means to us. We're moving away from institutions. We're calling individuals to this particular process. And we're making a commitment as young leaders that peace building is our responsibility. That sustaining peace is our collective effort. And that we shall need to learn new tools of negotiating our lives effectively. I think my message was simple. As individuals, we have to locate ourselves in there. We cannot pass on the baton. You're a father, you're a mother. Peace is your responsibility. You're a daughter, you're a son. You're an employee, you're an employer. Let us flip the question. How are we contributing to conflict? And if we can answer that question, and if we can keep mobbing the streets of social media, then we are making a modest contribution. And I, for one, hope that when we walk through those doors tomorrow, that we sustain that conversation. And what I'm hoping to see on Thursday, Friday, when we're back home, is then tell us how you're sustaining peace in your small world. Put a small little video in your social enterprise, as a boss, as a colleague, as a mother, as a father. Put a little video in there. Let's motivate each other. And I, for one, will follow. I, for one, will tag. But what we've begun is a social movement of young peace builders, committing individually to sustain peace on the continent. Thank you so much, and thanks. Pause.
I guess we still have 1 minute. So powerful. I think all of us have been inspired, empowered, right? And we are ready to be that change, right? So whatever little discussion we've made today, it's part of a commitment that we made during the COP WhatsApp meetings that we were having in January, right? So in that discussion, 227 participants were present, and we committed. And more specifically, the exercise that we did on Twitter was one of the commitments that we made, that we have to use the social media to influence or to advocate for peace and tolerance in Africa. So whatever little we are doing, whatever small activity we are engaging, within our communities, our societies, our countries, our comfort zones, let us ensure that this exercise does not remain here, but we go with it home. So that when another convening is being made, maybe sometime next year, they can draw back to what we did and pick up from there, right? So we have already set the stage for people that are coming after us and even us, so that we can have a peaceful and prosperous Africa, and we can have fellows influencing peace in our societies, in our families, in our countries, and the entire continent. Thank you so much for giving us time. Thank you so much, Miss William. Allow me to call William. Thank you so much for your interactive session, for your knowledge, for your time, and for at least making it different from what you're used to. You get? Maybe even me, I thought that I'll be asking him questions. Huh? You get? But then it turned out that it had to come from us, right? So we have to inculcate that for things to happen, it has to start from us. In the spirit of Ubuntu, it is us or anything for us. For it to be there, it has to happen. Because for it to happen, it has to be us, right? I am because I am. Thank you so much. And I know you are alive, right? You are awake. Yes? Are you still awake? Are you still active? And thank you so much.
My name is Mbolatina Rekutor Malal, and I'm from Madagascar. I'm a Mandela Washington Fellow 2017 and a RAP member for the Southern Africa. So please join me to welcome our guest, Mrs. Carol Laurent, the Deputy Mission Director for USAID West Africa Regional Mission since November 2017. With 34 years of international humanitarian and development experience, Mrs. Laurent has lived and worked in several countries, including Chad, Ethiopia, Haiti, Ghana, Madagascar, and Sri Lanka, in addition to Washington, D.C., where she has served as Deputy Director for the Center for Resilience. Mrs. Laurent received her BA in Anthropology at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and her MA in International Economics and Comparative Politics from Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies in Washington, D.C. Please, a round of applause for Mrs. Laurent.
To my fellow colleagues from USAID and the Department of State, to all of you at IREX who worked so hard to put this event together, distinguished YALI Mandela Washington Fellowship alumni, ladies and gentlemen, as I learned this morning, Sawubona. It is always a delight to be gathered with some of Africa's best and brightest. Every time I have the opportunity to interact with YALI Fellows, I consider it as an opportunity to learn, to be inspired, and I leave knowing that Africa indeed has a bright future. This conviction has only been deepened with my short time here today. I have no doubt that those of you gathered here are indeed the future we speak of. As you know, the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program is the U.S. government's investment in young African leaders with the goal of building and sustaining a network of passionate young Africans, as well as supporting and enhancing their leadership skills and knowledge. You, seated here today, are a testimony of this commitment. Our participation in this fellowship has not only brought you together as a strong force, a formidable team of talented individuals, but has also equipped you with the requisite knowledge and skills to move your own professional and career goals forward, and perhaps most importantly, to help create the changes that your respective communities, villages, cities, and countries require. Following your return from the U.S. last August, many of you took advantage of the support provided through USAID and participated in networking events, hands-on practicums, and mentorships. I know you will agree with me that the many people who have dedicated their time and resources through all of these activities have helped provide a depth of experience that has strengthened your abilities as change makers. I'm thankful to these individuals for their support of YALI. Their role has been critical to making the program a success. I would like to acknowledge Jacqueline Bayoa of Uganda and Dorcas Maliro of Malawi for a successful collaboration and mentorship. I don't know if Jacqueline and Dorcas are here. Through the follow-on support collaboration fund grant, Dorcas invited Jacqueline to learn mushroom cultivation, farm setup, and product marketing. Dorcas's farm, Escas Investments, provided Jacqueline with valuable insights on how to strengthen the capacity of her own social enterprise to help women mushroom farmers in Uganda improve their productivity. In their bid to get better results in their collaboration, they took the opportunity to learn together how to grow mushroom seeds at the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. This is a clear example of the power of collaboration. Dorcas and Jacqueline have demonstrated the endless possibilities inherent in mentorship. I have no doubt that this will benefit Jacqueline and many of the farmers in her cooperative in Uganda. Good job to both of you. I would also like to acknowledge Victor Ochen, founder and executive director of the African Youth Initiative Network, INET, an organization that was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in 2015. Victor was paired by IREX with 2017 fellow Sharifu Kiraga Tusubira from Uganda also as a mentor. Through this mentorship, Sharifu improved his nonprofit management skills, a skill set critical to his position as executive director of the Uganda Sickle Cell Rescue Foundation. Victor helped Sharifu prepare a concept note for funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through INET. Sharifu reports that, and I quote, "The opportunity to learn from one of the best in the field of nonprofit leadership is playing a key role in transforming me into the global leader I aspire to be," close quote. Also worthy of note is the role that alumni have played in hosting practicums and serving as mentors for your cohort. Again, I'm going to single out a few of your colleagues here today. One, 2017 fellows Rotimi Abina and Adewale Badejoko from Nigeria recently completed practicums with Springboard Organic Farms, founded and directed by 2014 fellow Lawrence Afere from Nigeria. A second example, 2017 fellow Albert Masaruhare from Zimbabwe is currently completing a practicum at Vendors Initiative for Social and Economic Transformation, VIZET, owned and operated by 2016 fellow Samuel Wadzi from Zimbabwe. A third example, 2017 fellow Sheila Acheng Awur from Kenya completed a practicum with JQuat Alumni Association, where she was supervised and mentored by 2015 fellow Saoke Churchill from Kenya. These are but a few examples of the efforts YALI alumni have put into supporting the professional development of their colleagues. It also highlights the tremendous knowledge and expertise that already lie within the YALI alumni network and the impact that you have on each other. This is our long-nurtured hope, that you, who have the opportunity to benefit from this program, will go on to spur change in your communities. Indeed, as you has rightly themed this conference, I feel your energy, the zeal that will energize African youth to drive development through innovation and collaboration. I see the partnerships already evolving, and I sense that change is on the horizon. What more can I say but to urge you on? Keep the drive and continue to stoke the flames of leadership. I applaud your efforts so far and encourage many more of these to happen. I wish you a fruitful conference, and I look forward to hearing all of the great exploits to come. Remember, Africa is looking up to you. Thank you.